Oh, hello. I'm just trying on a new life jacket. You're probably saying, well, why am I trying on my life jacket here in the office? So I'm not likely to fall into the water from here, right? Well, I just want to be ready in case there's an emergency. Because, well, in an emergency, things can happen really quickly. So I just practice to be safe. You see, safety is a very important factor here in the Big Harbour, so we take it quite seriously. Now, George had become something of a safety expert. And that wasn't always the case. No. I remember something that happened just last week. The tugboats were gathered at the Great Ocean Tug and Salvage Company dock, waiting for the dispatcher to give out the jobs for the day. The weather was fine and clear, but few ships were expected in the harbor that day. George was wondering if they might all be given the day off.
I'd like to sail up the coast and visit some friends,
he told Emily.
Good morning, tugboats,
said the dispatcher.
I have some good news. There are no jobs scheduled until this afternoon, so you may all have the morning free.
The tugs cheered happily. All except Kodak.
Excuse me,
said Kodak, moving close to the dispatcher.
But I believe we do have something to do this morning.
And what would that be, Kodak? Said the dispatcher.
Well, my emergency signal flag class,
replied Kodak very seriously. All the tugs went up.
Not this morning,
said George.
If you remember,
Kodak continued,
last week's class had to be canceled because we were so busy.
I do remember now, said the dispatcher, and I said you could hold the class as soon as we had some free time.
And the first free time,
said Kodak,
is this morning.
You see, it was Kodak's job to hold regular safety classes for the tugs, and he was an expert on signal flags.
Thanks for reminding me, Kodak,
said the dispatcher.
All tugs will attend signal flag class this morning. I don't need a class for signal flags,
said George.
I know them all.
We have to be prepared for an emergency, said Kodak quietly.
We've been over it all before,
said George to the others.
It's a waste of time.
George, said Emily, the dispatcher told us to go to Kodak's class.
Oh, all right,
sighed George.
Let's practice the silly old flag signals.
The tugs gathered for signal flag class out in the harbor. In the busy world of the harbor, it is important that all ships can talk to each other in an emergency by showing colored signal flags. The flags are like special words that ships say to each other. The signals help prevent accidents.
Let's get started,
said Kodak.
I will show one of the signal flags and ask someone to tell me what it means. Ready?
Ready, said all the tugs, except George, who didn't seem to be listening.
All right,
said Kodak, showing the first signal flag.
What does this flag mean? Emily?
That flag means... Emily paused, thinking. I am leaving for the ocean.
Right, said Kodak. It does mean I am leaving for the ocean. I wish I was leaving,
said George. He was trying to make a joke. But Hank was the only one who laughed. Kodak showed a different flag.
What does this signal mean?
He said.
Theodore?
Let me think, said Theodore. I think it means I'm dragging my anchor.
Very good,
said Kodak.
This class is dragging too,
said George.
Let's try another one,
said Kodak as he showed a new flag.
What does this signal mean? George?
Said George. He was surprised to hear his own name. Go ahead, George, said Theodore, trying to be encouraging. Tell Kodak what the flag means.
I will,
said George. But he wasn't sure at all what the flag meant.
It means,
I know, called Hank.
Give George a minute to think,
said Kodak.
I don't know what it means,
said George suddenly.
And I don't care.
This signal means I am in trouble, said Kodak. George, you really need to know this one.
These signal flags are silly,
said George.
If a ship is in trouble, she can call me on the radio.
But what if the radio isn't working? asked Emma.
Well, I have other things to do,
said George. He still thought the flags were seven, and he could not remember a time when he had ever had to use them.
We haven't looked at the other signals yet,
called Photo, who had raised another flag.
This is a very important signal.
But George was gone. What does that flag mean? Asked Theodore, who was still paying close attention.
This signal flag means, danger, stay away,
replied Photo. Well, later that day, George was relaxing at the dock when the others returned from signal flag class. My brain is sore from memorizing all those signals, said Hank.
I know what you mean,
laughed George.
Photo's class gives me a pain in the head too.
But George was the only one laughing. Over the next few days, the tugs were very busy as many large ships entered and left, and many barges were pushed and pulled. But not once during the week did one of the tugs use the signal flags, and George made sure Photo knew it.
Did you use any of your signal flags today, Photo?
Asked George.
No,
said Photo, who didn't really like the question.
Well, did you use some?
Asked George.
No,
said Photo.
I'm not surprised,
said George. He still thought the signal flags were silly. But that was about to change. The next morning, the dispatcher sent George and Theodore to the harbor entrance to watch for a ship that was late arriving. Maybe we should split up, said Theodore.
Good idea,
said George.
Theodore, you look in that direction, and I'll check over there.
Okay, said Theodore, and he sailed on. George cautiously moved closer to the shore. And then he saw it. A large shape loomed in the distance. It was a ship, and George could tell from the way she leaned that something was wrong. Suddenly, George's radio came on. He knew immediately that the message was coming from the ship in front of him. But he couldn't understand a word she was saying. You see, the ship was trying to talk to him, but something was wrong with her radio, and only parts of the words were coming through. Her radio must be broken, thought George. I can't understand. He decided to move closer when the ship showed two signal flags. The ship was trying to tell George something using signal flags. I've seen those flags before, George said to himself. I think I know what they mean, he thought. But I'm not sure. For the first time, he wished he had listened to Photo during his signal class. Well, thought George, I'll just have to go over to the ship and see for myself what's wrong. Stop, George! It was Theodore who had suddenly appeared in front of George. The two tugs almost collided.
Theodore, what are you doing?
Said George. Didn't you see the signal flags? Asked Theodore.
Of course I did,
said George. And then he added,
but I can't remember what they mean.
I can, said Theodore. The first one means, I am in trouble.
In trouble?
Said George.
Then let's go.
No, said Theodore, cutting him off. The other flag means you are running into danger.
Danger, said George. What danger?
They peered closely at the water near the ship, and then they saw the rocks. They were large and jagged and just below the surface.
Those rocks are not listed on the charts,
said George. That ship must have hit one of them, said Theodore. And now she's stuck.
And I would be stuck too, said George, if you hadn't stopped me.
How will we ever rescue the ship? I have an idea, said Theodore. We need to find a floating log. Come on. Theodore's plan was simple, and it worked. First they found the log and tied their tow ropes to it. Then they floated the log to the grounded ship so she could reach their ropes.
Okay, Theodore,
said George.
Pull!
It's working, called Theodore. She's free. Well, the news of the emergency rescue spread quickly around the harbor. All the tugs congratulated Theodore and George. Good work, said Emily to the two tugs. You saved the day. You're heroes, shouted Hank. George didn't say anything for a moment. It felt good being a hero, but he knew there was someone else who had really saved the day.
The ship never would have been saved without the flag signals,
George began. And then he turned to Photo.
Photo, you were always telling us how important flag signals are. I'm sorry for not listening in your class. You're the real hero.
Well, Kodak was very happy to hear this. The other tugs whistled and smiled their biggest smiles. Hooray for Kodak! We have some more time off, said Hank. What do we do now? George answered with a signal flag. Hey, said Hank. I know that signal. It means go. Go where? Said Theodore. George raised another flag. I know that one, said Emily happily. That signal means I wish to raise flags. Let's go raise flags, shouted Hank.
You mean,
said Photo to George,
you want to practice signal flags?
George raised a flag right away, and so did the other tugs. Their flags all said, yes. And with that, all the tugs headed on, with George leading the way. Well, since then, George has become quite an expert on safety signals. Yes, tugboats know a lot about safety. And like the tugboats, I keep practicing for emergencies too. I always do my best to be prepared. Yeah, that seems right. Now, if my chair falls in the ocean, I'm ready.
You're cruising in the harbor with Theodore Tugboat.